Hi everyone, Gunpla here. Thank you for joining me today for another how-to video. And today, I'm gonna show you how to remove a seam line using Mr. Hobby, Mr. Cement S. Before we start, I would like to thank Masamune Studio for sponsoring this video, and more about them later. And we're gonna use Mr. Cement S from Mr. Hobby to close the seam line. And the advantage of using this is that the viscosity of this glue is more liquid than others, and it's just gonna go on all the gaps and it's just gonna flow in it. And the other advantage is that the joint is going to be the same color as the plastic, because the way it works is that Mr. Cement melts the plastic and merge it together. And there are two ways to apply this glue. So the first one is that you're going to give probably a small gap between the parts and then just brush the glue to apply it, and then just brush it liberally so that you can get the glue in both sides. The other way is to totally separate the part and then just put ample amount of glue on both sides and then just snap it back together. For this how-to video, we're gonna use that technique. So I'm just gonna separate them both and then apply ample amount of glue on both sides. So another trick that I'm using is that I always put a rubber band on all the caps of my glues. It could be Mr. Cement, it could be the Mark Setter or the Mark Softer. It just gives me a grip, so it's not hard on your hands or on your fingers. So for this one, we're just gonna apply ample amount of glue on both sides. And then we're just going to snap it back together. So I'm just gonna give a little pressure to snap the parts back in order to squeeze a little bit of that glue. And then you could actually put some additional if you find any gap in there. You could just dab it like this. Because of the fluidity or the viscosity of the glue, it's just gonna go inside the gap, and then you can just press it again with a little pressure. So if you can see, there's a little bit of bump in the joint of the seam line or in the seam line. This is the glue or the melted plastic, and then it's squeezed out by the pressure that you put earlier. And this is the stuff that's going to seal your seam line. So the curing period for this, it says in the internet that it's 4 hours to 6 hours, but based on my experience, you could actually do it after a few minutes. You could already sand it. Once the glue is cured, we could start sanding the seam line. So we're gonna remove the parts that oozed out from squeezing the parts. We're gonna start with a 600 grit sanding sponge, and we're just gonna sand it liberally. The good thing about using a sanding sponge is that you can contour the shape of the sponge based on the shape of your parts, which is really convenient. After seeing that it's already flat or it's already flush from the surface, you could increase the grit. So after 600, we're gonna use 800 and then 1000, and then we're gonna buff it. Now we're gonna use the 800 grit just to smooth out those sanding marks, and then we're just gonna go above from here. So the goal of increasing the grit is that we're trying to minimize the sanding marks, and then we're gonna buff it afterwards. And then afterwards, we're using 1000 grit. So this is going to start the polishing process. Again, it removes the sanding marks or sanding scratches. And then after that, we're gonna use 2000 just to polish it even further. And then after that, we're gonna use 4000. Just go as high as you can with the tools that you have. Then after this, I'm just gonna polish it. And then we're gonna polish it. So I'm gonna use this $1 sanding sponge with polish and buff. So if you wanna see a video that I made on how cheaper do you need in order to get into the hobby, you can just click it in this card if you wanna watch it. So I'm gonna use the nail buffer. So this is actually a sanding sponge for the nail. So number 6 is to buff and number 7 is to polish. So what does this do is that it actually remove the sanding dust or marks in order to make it shinier. Then I'm just gonna buff it. So you could buff it as much as you want, as long as you get the shine. I don't know if you can see there's already a shine in there. So that's what you get when you buff it. So you don't need to do this if you're customizing your Gunpla or if you're planning to custom paint it. So as long as you manage to make it flush and use a higher grit, you could start priming it. So we're gonna do a quick comparison of the before and after. As you can see, this is the before, straight out of the box with the seam lines. And then this is the after. It's a little shiny because we already buffed it. And you don't need much to remove your seam lines and to make your Gunpla a little better. So if you're wondering where to get all the stuff that I use in this video, you can visit msmnstudio.com for their wide selection of model kits, building materials, paints, tools, and many more. If you find this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and share the video to your friends, especially your friends that are new into the hobby. I really appreciate it if you do because it helps the channel a lot. So again, keep building and thank you for watching.